Hello there, listeners. It's Susie New from the Australian Society of Anaesthetists, and thank you for listening to our podcast. It's called Australian Anaesthesia, and it's where we talk about all things relevant to anaesthesia in Australia. In this episode, I'm chatting about something that I hope you have all heard about, and that is webAIRS, which stands for a web-based Anaesthesia Incident Reporting System. If you're a regular listener of the podcast, you might recall some earlier episodes that I've recorded and which I'll share with you again at the end of this episode. It's been a while since I've chatted webAIRS on the podcast, so I thought it was time for a refresh. And who better to go through this than Dr Yasmin Endlich, the Medical Director of webAIRS. She is an anaesthetist from Adelaide and has contributed so much work into developing webAIRS and supporting all the various analyses that are going on, including one that I was recently involved in and which will hopefully be coming out in a scientific journal soon. Before we go too much into webAIRS, I want to briefly share some thoughts from my recent sabbatical because it comes up briefly in this conversation with Dr. Endlich. You might have already heard of Safety 1 versus Safety 2. To recap, Safety 1 is what incident reports, M&Ms, have traditionally looked at, so identifying systems errors or failures and looking for areas where improvements can be made. The other way to look at patient safety is to look at what went right. That despite all the patient's comorbidities, the challenges of working in our stretched health system with less experienced staff or junior staff, lookalike ampules and frequent brand changes of medications due to medication shortages and production pressures and other systems issues, we look at how we kept things safe and we try to replicate or maximise them. Because we understand that the health system is a complex beast, which we as humans are constantly adapting and adjusting or creating workarounds to keep things safe for our patients and usually efficient as well. That's Safety 2. And while I said earlier, because it's widely recognised, that incident reporting traditionally takes a Safety 1 approach, what I'm impressed with is how Dr. Endlich actually took a Safety 2 approach, looking at what was done right, in this case to avoid airway incidents, in some of her research. You'll hear in this episode Dr. Endlich and I refer to Dr. Kaylee Jordan, who is the current chair of the ASA's Education Committee, which organises the practice Viva exam sessions for trainees, as well as many, many more events. One of those events is coming up soon. It's an M&M event and it's being held exclusively for ASA members. And I should mention that registration is complimentary. We know that it can be a bit daunting telling your peers about an incident that you have had or experienced. So we have partnered up with webAIRS for the event. Some of the webAIRS analyses have, thanks to Dr. Endlich and webAIRS, shared some incidents in a very general, de-identified way, of course, which they thought would be useful to discuss at an M&M. There are plans for holding more of these events exclusively for ASA members, but I think the best thing I can do for now is to let you hear about it directly from Dr. Endlich. So let's get into it. Thank you for joining me this evening. I thought we would go through some of the things that webAIRS is up to at the moment because there's so much. I feel like we should quickly talk about what webAIRS is for people who, I can't believe it, haven't heard about webAIRS. If you haven't, where have you been hiding? There's been so many analyses underway. We just submitted one today. There's been a lot of changes going on behind the scenes, websites being upgraded. And then maybe if we feel game enough, we can talk about what might be happening with the ASA M&Ms, which is still a very, very early idea. But between you and Kaylee, I think that is going to happen. Because you two are such powerhouse women. Before I go into that, for people who haven't met you before, do you want to just say a few words about who you are, perhaps where you work, what you're up to in life?
So my name is Yasmin Endlich. I'm an anaesthetist working in Adelaide. I work across public and private practice, and I do adult and pediatric anesthetics. I'm originally from Austria, from Vienna, so this is where my accent is coming from. And I have been involved with webAIRS since 2017 and have become the medical director of webAIRS, which is one of my biggest passions.
And not only have you done a lot of publication, but did I remember this correctly that you're also doing a PhD?
Yes, I'm also doing a PhD. I'm nearly finished. One more publication to go. I've started it a few years ago because I felt all the things that I was doing with webAIRS, I said I really enjoyed them, but I wanted to be somebody who also does that professionally and understands academia and does it in a proper way. So I felt I need a university to support me with that. So my PhD is based on webAIRS. It is based on airway incidents in Australia and New Zealand and on how we can make airway management better and safer, and includes 2 webAIRS analyses as well.
This is a good segue to talk about the analyses. Let's start with the analyses that you've been involved in for your PhD.
Okay, I go a step back. So the way I started thinking about that was when I did my very first webAIRS analysis, which was in 2018, which looked at difficult and failed intubations in the first 4,000 reports to webAIRS. And when I did that and looked at the literature, I found incident reports and analysis from AIMS, which was webAIRS' predecessor, which was a paper-based incident reporting system across Australia only. And they had a publication looking at difficult and failed intubations as well. And the percentage of number of events within their cohort was exactly the same as what we had within webAIRS 30 years later. So I thought we've done so much in airway management and the numbers of incidents in relation still seem to be the same. Why is that, and what can we do to improve it and make it better? So that's how my PhD started. The first webAIRS analysis within my PhD was looking at incidents also from a different angle. So that was the first purely qualitative analysis where we looked at safety 2 principles, which is the opposite of what has been done until now, which is looking at when there were near misses and no harm events and what was done to avoid the incident from progressing to a proper adverse event. And with that, we looked at difficult and failed intubations in the next 4,000 incidents reported to webAIRS. And then the other one was a current topic was esophageal intubations, where I still can't believe that they're still happening and that they're still unrecognized at times. And patients come to severe harm as well. And with webAIRS, we've got the beauty of having such a large database. We've got over 13,000 incidents reported now. So events that are rare, you pick them up within such a big database. So we analyzed 109 incidents of esophageal intubations. We categorized them into immediately recognized ones and into the delayed and unrecognized esophageal intubations. And unfortunately, they're still happening, and harm occurs in both groups. So in the groups when they were immediately recognized, there are events of esophageal perforations and tears, which have horrendous patient outcomes. And obviously the ones which are late recognized or unrecognized, patient outcome is not good for these ones.
It sounds like with your PhD that you've been publishing a lot of the analyses from webAIRS within this topic of airway management. But I wanted to find out about some of the other things that you're learning outside of webAIRS analyses.
The PhD started like any other PhD usually starts with a systematic review. So that was my first learning, creating the search criteria, meeting with a librarian, understanding how to do a proper literature search, which was much more than what I expected it to be. What we looked at was how airway incidents in general being used to prove safety, because the WHO published a guideline a few years ago about incident reportings in healthcare, and they did a review, and what they said, we're not doing very well. So in healthcare, we report a lot, so the numbers of our reports are there, then they get assessed, but they're reporting back and then looking at systems and then looking how to improve things and going up the pyramid to reduce adverse events. That's basically where it stops in most healthcare areas. And as the first part of the PhD, I wanted to look at if the same is true for airway management as well. So we did a scoping review. We looked back to the 90s, basically, about all the incident reports that came out and what was done in response to them. And there were 2 things that we found. So first of all, there were done things in response to them, but they're not published heavily. So a lot of them are presented at conferences, at presentations. So we found a lot of abstracts, but we didn't find as many publications. And the other thing, which is probably in the nature of incident reporting, is that there was no focus on safety too. It was all very reactive. So this is what went bad and this is what we should do. Some organizations did. Some wrote an article about the implementation of changes. Some of them then also did a review of the implementation of changes, brought a change and an improvement. But the numbers were fairly small. However, Tim Cook, who is NEP4, right, he did a big survey after NEP4 was published, and then there in his survey, 98% of all the institutions adapted and changed in response to the findings of NEP4. So we are definitely responding to incidents being reported. But we're not sharing what we're doing, and we're not sharing what worked well in our changes and what didn't. So that was the first part that I learned within my PhD.
And it brings up a few more questions for me, as these things often do. First of all, it makes me think about when I did my MPH. That was the first time I heard about implementation science. And you mentioned implementation a few times just then.
Yes.
I can't help but feel that we in anaesthesia, and perhaps other fields of medicine as well, are a bit behind the eight ball when it comes to looking and publishing our implementation side of things. What do you think about that?
I agree with you. That was definitely one of the findings within our scoping review as well, that implementation is an issue, and the few groups that reported and published on how they implemented the airway changes within the institution, that were really not many. Some of them were detailed, but there was not a lot out there where I could say like, oh, this is the recipe, how I should do it. And I think that makes it very hard. So I agree with you. We could and we should do much better there. But also I understand that it is difficult. So I work in a big hospital to bring in change here across different specialties, because that's what airway management is. It's extremely hard. And you've got one committee, and then you create the next one, and then you've got 5 meetings. Sometimes it's death by committee, right?
Yeah. That's the challenge of implementation, isn't it? It's as much about politics. Applying science means involving people. And once you involve people, everyone's opinion comes out.
I agree. And that's fine. The opinion should come out, as long as, this is my opinion, as long as we then progress into something constructive and then moving forward. But I'm by no means an implementation expert at all.
I thought it would be a good time to actually go through the incredible number of analyses that are underway at the moment. Have you kept count? How many are we up to?
I think at the moment there are around 30 analyses going simultaneously.
Wow.
Across all topics. Quite a few of them have been submitted for publication within the last few months. A number of them are in progress and soon to be ready. And they are great. I'm very excited. So we've got all various topics in there. So we've got a group which is looking at regional anesthesia. They're looking at wrong side blocks. We have an analysis which looked at wrong route administration, where Neuraxel and IV drug administrations were mixed up. And we've got a group which just sent me the first draft of the local anesthetic systemic toxicity analysis. We've got another group here in Adelaide that's looking at phrenic nerve paralysis with shoulder blocks. So there's a big interest at the moment in regional, and there's a very productive big group looking at regional anesthetic incidents at the moment. But we have other topics as well. So we've just submitted an analysis looking at the use of methadone perioperatively.
Topical.
And potential patient harm, very topical, right? Pediatric analysis are going. So one is looking at incidents within neonates. We are doing a cross-sectional overview of pediatric airway incidents at the moment as well. What else? I've got a list.
That's given us a really good snapshot of what's happening. I don't recall so many analyses occurring at the same time. And I put it down to your leadership that has attracted so many people. What do you think has changed? What do you think has been going on?
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I think we've done various things. Martin Karlvik has been fantastic. He is the founder of webAIRS, and the shoulders we're all standing on now. So huge credit goes to him. Without him, there would be no webAIRS, and we definitely would not be where we are at the moment. So that
for sure
needs to be mentioned. In the last 2 years when I took over, I felt a lot of people out there and did not know about webAIRS, and I felt that needs to change, because I think it's something that we as anaesthetists in Australia and New Zealand should be so proud of. It's the biggest anaesthetic incident reporting system worldwide. We have the biggest amount of data available. We can work the data because the system is set up in a way that we can extract it easily, that we can analyze it easily. So I felt like this message needs to get out there. So I made a point in sending out e-newsletters to all 3 organizations, and we are sending out articles to each 3 of the organizations' magazines. I felt we restructured what we wrote there a little bit. So we put out there and said, like, look, this is a topic which is currently of interest. Are there any analyzers or any people across Australia and New Zealand interested to be part of that analysis? And people responded to that, which was great. We presented each of the major conferences, so at the ASM and at the ASA meetings. And there as well, when I presented the data on airway, I also mentioned that esophageal, not a lot, but some of them also happened in neonates. And I had a big slide there and said, maybe this should be our next analysis. Is anybody interested? And there were emails coming. And then we bring these groups of interested people across Australia and New Zealand together and support them in how to do the analysis, which is time consuming, but it is exciting and it is actually very rewarding as well. We've also made adjustments to the website. And this is not something which is obviously visible to people who are reporting, but it is a difference to the analyzer. So it's much easier now for us to extract the data. We've got screening tools within the website now where people can go through the incidents and where people can work together. We have the tables and the statistics quicker. So these are changes that have happened in the background. But we're also working at changes at the front end as well. So webAIRS just had a big review of an IT group, which is basically looking at solutions and improvements of databases and of websites. And we've done that because I felt it's not only me and it's not only the committee who is using webAIRS. So we send out a survey to all people who are analyzers, all people who are local administrators within the institutions, asking them what they like about webAIRS, what they don't like, what they think should be improved, and ask them to send that forward within their departments as well. So with this, on one side, we will get the information from them and we get feedback, but that's also a reminder of webAIRS as well. So people are like, oh yes, there's webAIRS and we could use it more. There are more and more departments now that use webAIRS for the M&Ms, and we have got a specific function for that as well.
And my hospital uses it for that.
Good. We're looking at ways to improve it, to make it more user-friendly, also make it more pleasing to the eye as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so these are things that are in process. But like we said before, with implementation and changes, these things take time. So there are 3 organizations behind webAIRS. All 3 organizations need to agree, need to support with the funding. We don't get these things for free, unfortunately. But we are working on it.
Great. So we can expect perhaps some changes to the front end of the website, perhaps a more modern user interface, maybe coming in sometime in the future, yeah?
This is 100% the goal, and this is what we're working on a lot at the moment.
Maybe for people who don't know how their departments can use webAIRS for the M&Ms, do you want to just step through that process?
Yeah, very easy. So every hospital that is registered with webAIRS usually has what we call a local administrator. So the local administrator is an anaesthetist who is registered with webAIRS, but who has additional user functions available to him or her within their institution. So that is one requirement to be able to use webAIRS within your department. You need to have one person. Some departments have 3 of them who have assigned as a local administrator.
Like a safety quality officer or something like that.
Correct, or the person who runs the M&M. All they need to do is send us an email and we can set this up. And then you have anaesthetists who are reporting to webAIRS. And they can register within webAIRS as an individual person, but they can also connect their registration to their organization. And if they now decide to enter an incident connected to the organization, then this incident is accessible to the local administrator.
And we should point out you can have multiple organisations. So if you work at 2 public hospitals and you do private practice, you can have all those different setups when you register.
100% correct. It's still completely anonymous. So the local administrator does not know that colleague XYZ is the person who registered the incident. But they can, for the M&M, can see the list of incidents that have been reported within their institution within a certain time period that they can choose, and can use the local administrator function within there as well to display that incident for the M&M meeting. We've got a Zoom function in there so that you can click through and can see the different parts of what has been reported. And the institutions that are using it, they're finding it really useful. And the local administrator then can categorize these incidents of being reviewed, needs to be reviewed, is archived, for example, as well.
So I didn't know that because I don't have those functions. So there you go, the secret squirrel business.
Yes, they can also do audits within these incidents as well.
Fantastic. Maybe this is a good time to talk about what might be happening with the ASA M&M meetings, because there's been a couple. We've had a few dabbles over the last few years with running webAIRS ones, but do you have any updates there?
So I've been in contact with Kaylee, and we are in discussion in how we're going to set it up. I think we can do as many as Kaylee thinks are useful and are wanted. What I'm doing is sending an email to all the analyzers that we have at the moment, because, as I said, we've got 30 analyses going. There are people who will be very familiar within the analysis with the incidents that have been reported, and we will ask them to send us the ones that they think that are useful for an M&M or that are useful to be discussed within a bigger group. And they will then be sent to me, and I will make sure that they stay de-identified. What we don't want is anybody who has reported an incident feel like, oh, we are not treating the data safely. We 100% are, and it will stay anonymous and it will stay completely de-identifiable as well. But these incidents will be where we then can use the data and can use cases for the ASA M&Ms.
Great, fantastic. And I think there's also going to be perhaps another process where ASA members, if they've got a case that they're reporting to webAIRS and they think it might be of interest, that they might be able to just put a little note in.
Correct.
To say that they're happy for this case to be discussed at an ASA M&M.
We will describe that at the first M&M meeting, or when we also do the advertising. Basically have a code word within the narratives, and with this we can filter these incidents out and then find them quite quickly and use them.
So ASA members, keep an eye out for your emails and future M&M meetings to discover what the code word will be.
Sounds good.
That sounds super cool. Oh, look, it's been wonderful having this little update on webAIRS. There's so much. It's such a brief conversation, which really doesn't reflect just the enormous amount of work going on with the analyses behind the scenes. But is there anything else that you want to share with our podcast listeners today?
I just would like to say, if you haven't registered with webAIRS yet, please do. It's there for you. It's there for every anaesthetist in Australia and New Zealand. It also includes junior doctors and trainees who are often very keen to be involved in analysis and to work together with senior colleagues and then learn from them. So I would like to create a culture where with an analysis we have got junior doctors, experienced analyzers and academia working together in a group. But I also would like to help create a culture of reporting, because it is important. It's not only important for oneself when you report, as it's a part of self-reflection. It is a part of working through an incident yourself as well, but it also benefits the wider community. So we do everything we can to what is reported to make it also useful and bring it back to the anesthetic community, so that everybody who has reported or has analyzed or has spent time and click register. And we are also very approachable, so I'm happy to be contacted by anyone at any time, and I will respond.
I can vouch for how approachable you are. So you just reminded me that we should remind people that reporting to webAIRS is anonymous and it's also legally privileged.
It's protected by qualified privileges, which we are renewing religiously every 3 years, and it will stay like that as well. And you also accrue CPD points and CPD hours across the ASA CPD home and also across the ANSC CPD home as well.
For people who perhaps want to go back and look at something, we've talked about some of the analyses that have already been done. Is there one place that they can find all of these resources?
At the moment, there's one place on the website under publications. So there will be everything which is published already is going to be accessible there. Regarding conference presentations, we don't have that click resource yet, but if anybody is interested, again, we're just an email away, so we can send the information out to anybody who wants it.
Lovely. That has been fantastic. It's been wonderful catching up with you as always. And I'm sure I'll be emailing you again over the next few weeks about yet more analyses that we're working on together.
Let's go. Yes. Thank you so much, Susie.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation, and more importantly, I hope that we have inspired you to do one of three things. The first one is to sign up for webAIRS if you haven't already done so. As Yasmin says, any anaesthetist or trainee in Australia and New Zealand can register to become a webAIRS user. So please do go ahead and do that. Of course, I'll put a link to the webAIRS website, confusingly called ANSTDAC, which stands for the Australian-New Zealand Tripartite Anaesthetic Data Committee, in the web address. The next thing I'd encourage you to do is report your cases. Report those incidents, even if it's just to anonymously let an analyzer in the future know what a great job you did in handling the event. As Yasmin's shown us, we might be looking to do more safety 2 type analyses in the future. So don't restrict yourself by thinking of mortality and morbidity. And definitely do share an incident if you think that there's something that the wider anaesthetic community should know about, that there's something that we could learn. And then the third thing I'd encourage you to do is sign up for the ASA M&M event. The first one will be held on the 29th of June, so later this month in 2026. And as we discussed, we plan to share with you the code word so that if you have an incident that you'd like to discuss at a future M&M with other ASA members, you can enter that in your report. The best place to register for that event is from the events page on the ASA website, and of course there'll be a link to that in the show notes. I'll also share links for the other episodes I've recorded on other webAIRS topics. There's episode 54 where I chat with the OG, original godfather of webAIRS, Professor Malton Culwick. Then there's episode 57 on lingual nerve injury and episode 79 on jaw dislocation. While you're scrolling down for those links in the show notes, can I ask you a favour? Can you subscribe or follow the podcast? It helps others find it and it means a lot to me. All right. I hope your anaesthetics stay safe and incident-free, and I hope that I see you at the M&M later this month. And as always, I hope that you and your patients are staying safe and well out there. Thanks for listening.
This has been Australian Anaesthesia, produced by the Australian Society of Anaesthetists, with many thanks to host and editor Dr Susie New, with music by Soda Lime Music, sound and engineering by Bearview, and graphics by the ASA Communications team. For more content, please visit www.asa.org.au.